Thank you, Galen. As you mentioned, my name is Kim Tredinnick. I'm the Great Lakes Regional Director for the last 3 years. I'm a 7-year past member of the Wisconsin Accounting Examining Board, having left that board in June when I moved to a different state. It was my privilege to be the chair of the Audit Committee of NASBA for the second year in a row, and I'd like to thank the get the right button here. Whoops. Operator error. Okay. I'll just go on and see if they can catch up to me. I'd like to thank the members of the Audit Committee this year, which were Rick Isserman, Janet Gray, Doug Skiles, and Jimmy Burks. Thanks to each one of those for their member service during the year. As with last year, all of the Audit Committee members this year were new to the Audit Committee, with the exception of myself, and last year we had all new committee members also. But for the first time this year, all the members of the Audit Committee were also members of the NASBA Board of Directors by design. I'd like to thank NASBA's staff for the excellent cooperation and assistance in completing this year's audit on a timely and efficient basis. I'd like to also recognize the extraordinary effort that they took, because this year we had a lot of changes coming in late in the process, and they did a tremendous job of keeping up with the changes and getting them presented to the various bodies that were looking at those during the process. The committee charge is to oversee the overall planning and completion of the annual audit and to recommend to the Board of Directors a firm to complete next year's audit. The report on the activities of the Audit Committee for this year are found on page 46 of your annual report. During the year, we had 2 meetings. In May, we had a planning meeting telephonically with staff of NASBA, the auditors, and the Audit Committee members. On September 23rd, we had a meeting in Nashville, a live meeting of all the Audit Committee members with management and the auditors. And all members of the Audit Committee were there. So they were very active during the year. We had members of management, the financial staff, and Ken Bishop also participated in that meeting. And then present by phone were Chair Galen Hansen and Chair-elect Carlos Johnson. We did a detailed review of the financial statements because, as I mentioned, a number of changes were made during late in the process. And so we went through those in detail, plus we made a significant number of other changes to the statements that I'll mention in just a couple minutes. So during the meeting, we met jointly with the auditors and staff and reviewed the overall financial statements. The auditors presented their communications to those charged with governance as required by generally accepted auditing standards. They indicated there was no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses to inform us about. There were no journal entries made during the audit, and they were very complimentary overall regarding the quality of our staff. We met separately with the auditors without management present, and then we met separately with management without the auditors present to discuss any concerns related to the performance of our auditors, and there was none. In addition, during the meeting, we asked our auditors to perform additional procedures on the escrow account managed by NASBA over and above what was required during the audit. As would be expected, we received an unmodified report on NASBA's financial statements. So I mentioned there were a couple significant changes that were made to the statements during the year. A few of those were for the first time, we prepared the cash flow statements on the direct method. Second, we prepared the statements rounded off to the nearest thousands instead of preparing the statements down to the single dollar. A statement that was previously presented was eliminated because it was not required. and the notes were reordered and oftentimes rewritten to be presented in a more logical order. The bottom line is, when I look at the financial statements and pick them up, I'm extremely pleased with the final quality of the overall product that we published this year. I think it's very clean and professional looking, rounding off to the dollar, to the thousands. We also reviewed the Audit Committee charter as we do annually, and this year we had no changes. By written agreement with CPT's board, our Audit Committee of NASBA acts as the Audit Committee for CPT also, and we reviewed and discussed the audit of CPT and accepted that, and they also had an unmodified report. The only significant change for CPT is they early implemented an auditing standard related to services provided by personnel of affiliated organizations and recognized additional contributions and expenses provided by NASBA personnel in the financial statements. In addition, we separately reported the contributions made by NASBA to CPT in the interest of more clarity. We reviewed and approved the NASBA 401k financial statements, which also received an unmodified opinion. We reviewed and approved the engagement letter for the AT 101 attestation engagement over computer controls and processing by NASBA in various areas. And we recommended, the Audit Committee recommended to the Board of Directors the reappointment of Lattimore, Black, Morgan, & Kane as the auditors for NASBA for 2014. And the Board of Directors approved that recommendation at their meeting on Friday. So thanks again to the Audit Committee members this year and the staff, the NASBA staff, for their great efforts and contributions. And Chairman Galen, that completes my report of the Audit Committee.